Today we're going to tour 3011 Lytle Road in Waynesville, Ohio. Les Chevaux de Vigne of Cheval means horses of the vineyard. Located on just over 5 acres. 3.5 acres for horses, a 6-stall barn, and a rare 1/4 acre grape vineyard. And the main home featuring 2,650 square feet. Located within 10 minutes of I-75 or 5 minutes from South Centerville. Dating back to the days of the Revolutionary War, this property was once deeded by President James Madison in 1804. It was most likely given in exchange for service during these times. It is also believed that the main house, barn, and many outbuildings were built by the owner of the mill that was adjacent to this property. As you will discover, the doors, wood trim, and flooring have been exquisitely crafted. Oh, very nice. Inside, notice the open and airy feel. This family room hosts 10-foot ceilings, attractive wide plank hardwood flooring, intricate molding, space for your plasma TV. Access is the formal dining, complete with attractive wall coverings, chair rail, and overlooking the eastern-facing front yard. You'll appreciate the many appointments that this home includes. Notice the sconces, the gas fireplace, built-in cabinetry, dry bar. This music room, formal living, or parlor is really the great place for conversation. It also accesses the first level study, first floor bedroom, or extra sitting area. You know, the quality craftsmanship that's in this home is really something that you won't find in any other property. Very nice. Let's take a look at the kitchen. The casings are truly magnificent. Now offering high ceilings, updated countertops, and custom period style cabinetry. You'll absolutely love the under cabinet lighting, the open soffits, the Italian tile floors, centrally located cooking island with a Genair range, extra cabinetry and expansion areas. And you'll also love enjoying breakfast overlooking the vineyard, deck areas, and access to this fully screened front porch. Facing east, you'll absolutely love this fenced and open yard. The numerous porches offer quite a bit of privacy and inspire conversation. You'll love the wine orchard, the deck, and of course the screened patio. Access to one of the 3 full baths with period style fixtures, tin ceiling, tile floors, tile surround, and a walk-in style shower. Very nice. There is expansion area for additional cabinetry and storage. And there's also access from the kitchen to the front porch, utility, and the private staircase to the owner's suite quarters. Let's take a look upstairs. Upstairs we have 3 bedrooms. French doors lead to the owner's suite with dressing area and a spacious owner's suite quarters. Notice the sitting area overlooking the vineyard, horse paddock, rose garden, and also accessing your own private staircase to the lower level. A king-size bed fits nicely in this area, and your own bath. Attractive vanity, upright shower, makeup area, attractive wall coverings, and a jacuzzi style tub. Spacious closet. And additional storage with the dressing areas. A linen closet. Full bath. And 2 extra bedrooms. Very nice. Let's take a look outside. Featuring 1,050 square feet, the guest home features 2 bedrooms, a bath, study, and a vaulted ceiling family room. Galley style kitchen is also very attractive. And you'll love access to the vineyard. The barn also houses 6 stables. You can imagine entertaining in this tranquil space. Notice the pergola, the pond with waterfall, and view of the paddock. You can imagine enjoying some iced tea or a glass of wine with friends. Notice the pond and treat area and the spacious deck, great for enjoying this tranquil environment. There's also additional space in the courtyard, great for parking large groups of friends or family, entertaining, and you'll love the many other points of interest.
Welcome to Cheval. Today on Fun with Grapes, we have a real special treat. We are at Cheval. We are in Lytle, Ohio, And it's the home of Bob and Joan Montenegro, who are going to give us some information about their very own vineyard. Joan Montenegro, you and Bob are the owners of Cheval, and I know a little bit of French, but you're going to have to help me interpret your sign.
Oh, okay. Well, that's pretty easy. It's les chevaux des vignes, which means the horses of the vineyard.
And are there horses here?
We have some horses, but they're not ours. They graze on our property from our neighbor, but they are always frolicking in the paddocks behind the vineyard and on the side of the house.
So you get all the benefits and none of the work of the
None
horses.
of the work, and of course we're really not horse people, but we are vineyard people.
That works. How long have you lived here?
We've had this property for 10 years, and the history of the property is really fascinating.
How old is the house?
Well,
do you know?
we've gone to the courthouse in Warren County, and it dates back. The original property was deeded by President James Madison in 1804, the year after Ohio became a state. And we're assuming that it was deeded on behalf of, in exchange for their service in the military. But there are 400 acres that's part of the original property. We only have 5 of them now. The house itself, we think, dates back to about 1860s, sometime maybe early 1870s, right after the Civil War. And we're making some assumptions on that basis based on the records that we were able to find at the courthouse.
When you moved here, did you have to do renovations? Had it been lived in?
It had been lived in by several different families, yes. Of course, over the years, it had been lived in by a number of different families. But yes, when we bought the property about 10 years ago, we decided to do something really fun. We weren't really sure what, but then over a couple of glasses of wine, we made some decisions of doing certain things. The first thing we did was Bob nearly burned down the barn, but he was tearing down a building that sits where our guest house sits. So he actually literally burned the building down with the help of the fire department.
Okay.
And then we built the guest house, and from there we went over to the main house. It took us about a year to build the guest house. Then we went over to the main house and started renovating the main house, and that took about another year.
So you kind of made this decision over a couple of glasses of wine, but did you have vineyards in mind when you came out here?
Sort of. We were looking at the property. We knew we didn't have horses, so we weren't going to be using the paddocks for horses. And so we decided that what would be fun to put in one of the paddocks would be some wine, because Bob's company is a French company, and so it was a natural tie-in that we would grow grapes, and then eventually the idea would be to graft French cuttings onto our cuttings. So the name Cheval is, of course, French for horse, and les chevaux des vignes would be the horses of the vineyard.
Well, I think we should probably move on next and talk to the little old winemaker himself and see what he can tell us about the vineyards. And this is Bob Montenegro, the other half of the Montenegro wine growing duo. And Bob, I guess you've got all these beautiful vineyards, but what's your background?
My background really fits into the winemaking business because I was in the tennis industry.
Okay.
Actually, I worked for a French company, and we would have contests all the time. When my counterparts would come over from France, they would insist on drinking French wines at first because they didn't think American wines were any good. Well, we had these battles going on for 20 years, American wines, French wines, so that when I did retire, this area, this quarter acre, was already fenced off and was an ideal location to try and grow grapes and convince the French that we can do good American wines here.
So do you have help from somebody? I mean, your French friends or?
No, no, no. Everything that's here is done by Joan and myself.
But how did you learn what to do and how to plant them? And some, somebody clue you in, or did you just put them in the ground?
Well, actually, the first year, I just stuck twigs in the ground and watched to see if they would grow. And that same time, we were trying to work on refurbishing the house, so that didn't work particularly well. But Valley Vineyard has been a godsend. I got the first cuttings from them, and they answer any and all questions that I have. So if you notice, I have a triple trellis, the wire stays, all these different things were suggestions from them as to what to do. What I wanted originally was to try and duplicate what the cuttings were used to at Valley Vineyard. The same soil, the same weather, to make it as easy as possible to try and start something here. And then from there, we had hoped to be able to get cuttings from other areas, California, France, and graft onto the root system here and do some hybrid work.
And Valley Vineyards is close to here, aren't they?
Close here. They're in Morrow.
So whatever they've grown there has been successful, and that's your goal, is to duplicate what they're doing.
Exactly. They've had a very good harvest for a number of years. They grow a great number of different grapes. I asked them for cuttings for their strongest red, which is something called de Chinook, which is what this whole section is made of.
How about the Ohio State Extension? Are they helpful?
They're helpful. I've got a number of their books that I use, particularly helpful with the insecticides that I use to try and keep all the little bugs and things off of the plants and prevent black rot and powdery mildew and things like that. They're very helpful, yeah. And they answer questions too if I can't get a good answer from Valley.
So you moved here 10 years ago, and then how long ago did you plant the vines?
It was either 7 or 8 years ago that 8 years for sure, and the first batch that I put down I didn't have time to work on, so it's probably been about 7 years now that what you see has been in the ground.
And this is a de Chinook, is that right?
De Chinook.
And that's the rootstock, but so far you have not grafted any other type on?
Haven't grafted. We haven't been out to California or to France with an opportunity to get any cuttings at this point.
And it was because of Valley Vineyard that this is the type that you put in, because
Exactly.
It's successful in Ohio. Remember, we're not in California. You see a vineyard, but we're in Ohio.
Exactly.
Now you say de Chinook, is that a kind of grape?
It is a grape.
And
yeah.
that will make what kind of wine?
Well, a medium to medium strong red. It's not, it is a de Chinook, like a Cabernet would be a Cabernet, the de Chinook would be a de Chinook wine. They market and sell Valley Vineyard de Chinook.
And you said Valley Vineyard had recommended the triple trellising. Are there different types of trellising?
There are. You could have just one wire, you could have 2 wires. These plants are not designed for it, but I've seen some vineyards in Provence that don't have any wires at all. They just cut the root down to the ground, and the plants nestle on the ground during the summer, and they pick the grapes off of them in the fall and then cut back again. There are many different ways of trying to get the vines to grow, but the triple wire system that we use is what they have. And again, I was trying to use their expertise to make it as easy as possible for myself.
Now, once you've got all the trellises in, you have to prune periodically, right?
Prune in the wintertime when it's cold, when everything is dormant, so that you don't have a lot of damage to the vines.
And they're about as tall as we are now, so in the winter, how far down do you cut them?
Well, I just cut off all of the excess branches. The main stock that's on the 3 trellises stays, and I try and keep some of the branches so that they will have spots where the buds will come out and produce the grape clusters. So it's just all the excess that comes off. So what you see in the wintertime after I've pruned is just a bunch of what look like dead brown branches tied up on the wires.
So they grow a lot in a few months.
Oh, amazing. That's, in fact, that's part of the real thrill of having a vineyard. It's amazing how quickly they grow, how they go through too much rain, not enough rain, too much sun, not enough sun, wet winters, dry winters, and they come up, and it's magnificent in what they do.
And in pruning, I gather there's something also called green harvest, where you're going to take some of those grapes off to let the others be more potent, so to speak?
Well,
do you do that?
No. I've heard of that, and I understand that it is supposed to make the grape clusters that are left stronger, but it hurts me to cut grape clusters off of the vines after I work so damn hard to make them grow.
And then you've got some little spots I can see in the leaves. Is that an insect? Do you have to treat?
That's Japanese beetles. We were gone for about 10 days earlier this summer, and during that time period, they came out and gorged themselves on the leaves. So it is an unending process in the summer to try and prevent damage like that, but when you're gone, there's nothing you can do about that.
But they don't touch the grapes?
They don't touch the grapes. No,
okay.
the birds do that in the fall.
And I see these mylar-like posts waving above the vineyards. Is that keeping the birds away?
Well, it keeps some of them away, but we've already had some birds in among the vines, and we've seen grapes on the ground, which means that the birds are already in there starting to eat what they think are the ripest of the bunch. So it helps, but it's not foolproof.
For treating them, are you using organic, or are you using pesticides and herbicides?
I'm not using organic. I don't know that there's anything available that would help me. I use the standard products, Captan, Mancozeb. I use 7 for the bugs and the Japanese beetles. But I don't know of any natural insecticides that would work on the vines well. And the same thing with the herbicides. We cannot get systemic materials to work on our vines because we're technically not farmers. So I can only use surface materials, and given the limited knowledge that I have, I use what I feel is the best, the strongest, to make them have the best shot at producing good grapes.
Well, I can see the purple grapes on here. So how long till harvest?
One day before the birds arrive is what I've been told by Valley. But somewhere early September, usually between the 3rd and the 10th, or the 3rd and the 15th of September is the prime time. And then you determine that by actually doing a squeezing of some of the grapes to see what the sugar content is, and if it's high enough, it's time to harvest.
So you've got your little instruments that you can measure the bricks, and
yep.
So
yep.
it's scientifically based, not on intuition.
No.
Or the day before the birds, and if the birds are here, it's too late.
It's for sure a combination. Last year I talked to Valley and I said we were having some problems with the leaves, and they said, well, if the cover for the grapes is going away, even though they're not quite ready, pick them now. So you have some leverage, you have some space that you can work on, and then adjust with the amount of sugar that you would add and the other materials that go into the winemaking process to try and make it as good as possible.
Now this area equates to how much in space?
Well, this is the amazing thing, I think. This is a 1/4 acre, and the fencing that's here was here when we moved into the house. So it's prime setup for us. 1/4 acre should equal about 100 to 110 plants. Each plant should produce about 20 pounds of grapes, which would be about 10 pounds of juice. That comes out to about 500 bottles of wine per year if everything works well.
And is there a reason they go this direction? Is there some scientific, wonderful study you've got for putting them, I think, north and south?
I put them north and south because I felt that the sun would get on both sides of the vines with equal amount of power to give it as much heat and light as possible.
So potentially we've got 500 bottles of Deschanel, right? This is a dry red?
A dry red.
And
medium body.
Is this because that's what you like to drink?
Well, no, if they were growing a really strong cab or something of that nature, I would have gotten their cuttings, but they don't have that. They claim that the area here is not conducive to a good cab, so they stay away from that. I figured they know better than I, so I went with their knowledge and expertise.
So you make 500 bottles, and it's using only your grapes. You don't get grapes from anybody else.
Right. Let me qualify that a bit. We haven't been able to produce 500 bottles of wine yet. Last year we produced about 100 bottles, but the potential is for 500. And we do not bring in grapes from other people. We don't want to tarnish our quality.
Pure de Genac.
There you go.
De Montenegro.
Yes.
So come September, and the grapes are going to get harvested. Then what are you going to do next? Are you going to do anything here, or are you going to send it out?
No, we do everything here. After the grapes are harvested, we have big buckets that we take them in. We then stem them, take the stems off, then crush them. You know, the Lucille Ball thing is stomping on the grapes. We use our hands rather than our feet, but it's the same concept. To break the skins, put in the yeast, put in the sugar if it's needed, and let that ferment for a couple of days. Then from there it goes to the press where the juice is pressed out of the grape, and then put into carboys to ferment for a couple of months.
Do you two do it by yourself? Is it a party? Come pick the grapes? It looks like an awful lot of work.
Well, we haven't had a party yet. We've talked about this for a number of years, but we didn't really have enough grapes to have a real wine picking party until last year. And then we went crazy because we couldn't get it all done quickly. We had one person show up that helped us tremendously. This year, if things stay the way they are, we'll probably need a half a dozen people to help, and we will have some kind of a party to get the whole thing done quickly and make it a fun thing.
Well, you have to be very careful then because of potential rain and mold and some of those things occurring, right?
It hasn't been a problem so far. I guess it could be, but we haven't had that difficulty yet. Once the skins are broken, the fermentation process kills everything. So it's not a difficulty you don't have to worry about the grapes at that point.
So after they're all picked, do you put them in a barrel like we see at the big vineyards, or where does it go?
We have big plastic vats that we put the grapes into where they do the initial fermenting process, and then from there, after the grapes are pressed, we put them into 5-gallon jars called carboys.
Those are those big things
yeah,
we see
like
lots of
water,
people,
like water cooler
yes,
bottles.
and
Exactly.
saving their change in those
yeah,
kind of things.
Exactly.
Then how long is it left in that big jar?
Actually, last year's production is still in carboys. What you need to do is every 6 to 8 weeks move the juice from one carboy to another to get rid of the sediment that settles in the bottom of the carboys. And then at some point after all of the bubbling is done, all the fermentation is done, and the sediment doesn't show up as you change from carboy to carboy, then it's time to bottle. And that can be done basically at any time because it's aging in the carboy as well as it would in a bottle.
So it's in those carboys for back and forth for about how long?
About 6 months.
6 months. And then it's time to bottle?
Then it's time to bottle.
And do you do that here?
We do that here.
You do that here too.
Yeah.
And are you pouring it by hand? Do you have a machine that does it?
No, we use hoses and gravity to pour from the carboys into the bottles. We have a tool that helps push the corks into the bottles. We use real corks, not plastic. I hate plastic. I don't know how many bottles you've had problems with opening a plastic cork, but they're a pain. So we use natural cork.
And where do you buy your corks and things like your yeast and your...
Well, the yeast I get from Valley because I know it's fresh, but most of the other things, there are 2 or 3 companies that specialize in products. One's in Pennsylvania, one's in Wisconsin, and order stuff. The press that we have, we bought from a company in Pennsylvania.
So the big question is, how's the wine?
Not good so far.
But
it starts off, the first production that we had was turned into vinegar pretty badly, so that was not good. The wine we have in the carboys now tastes fairly good, but it's not something I would rave over, and I don't know if it's the aging process is going to improve it, or if in fact it's still a learning process. But we'll know when I transfer the wine to bottles. We'll be doing some tasting. We'll get an idea at that point whether we should go further and let them sit for a while. The fun thing will be putting them in bottles, assuming that they're going to work out fairly well, and then a year from now opening one, or 6 months from now opening a bottle and see what the improvement is, hopefully improvement, and then go to the next year and to the next year until it tastes good enough to drink.
Any specific goals? Do you want someday to enter one of the Ohio wine competitions?
No, no. 500 bottles is barely enough wine for Joan and myself, so we'll just keep it all for ourselves.
Just put it in
and our friends. And our
oh,
friends.
good friends, good. I hope I can get on that list.
You certainly can.
So you're not going to sell this, you're not going to distribute it, this is just for you.
Actually, it's a labor of love, so it's not something that we're trying to do commercially. A lot of people, that when they drive by, and the vineyard is really an interest to a lot of people, they'll drive by and stop, ask us how the vines are doing, ask a lot of the questions you're asking. So it's a conversation piece for the neighbors. So it's a labor of love, because we really enjoy what we're doing. We enjoy walking out here in the evening and looking to see what's happened this day that was different from the day before. It's a great project.
Well, it's still a bit of a novelty to see the vineyards in southern Ohio, but as we learned with Dennis, there is wine grown in every state, so
yeah,
it makes perfectly
even
good
Alaska.
sense.
That's right. That's right.
What's been the biggest surprise to you in this whole venture?
Well, some people might think that the amount of work that's involved in doing this, but actually it's the vines themselves. To see them come from nothing in the springtime. In the spring, when it's starting to warm up, sap starts to run out of the areas that have been cut. And then from that areas where the sap is coming out, you see little buds start to come out and the leaves shoot out. And the growth process is just amazing. If it's a cold spring and the grapes that originally come out die off because of the cold, the plants immediately start another process and produce more grape clusters. Their will to live and their will to produce, their will to do what they're supposed to be doing is just amazing. So it's a really fun process.
So you've sold the French tennis business, correct?
Yes.
And therefore that gives you lots of time to run the vineyard, right?
Lots of time. I couldn't be working in the tennis industry and doing this at the same time. Yes, that's right.
Do you recommend it to other people as a retirement project?
I think it would be a great project for people to be involved in. It does take time, and it does take care and patience and love, but I think it's great. Being out here is fun. I come out here with my Walkman and read books while I'm working, and so it's an educational thing mentally as well as learning from the grapes, and physically it's good. It keeps me in shape. So it's a good combination.
I think most everything comes from time, patience, and love. You can say all good things probably come from that, and I think you're on the right track here. And this Cheval, we call it Cheval Estates, Cheval Farm. Well, I know Joan calls it the farm. But
well, we'll probably stay with the farm. We haven't designed. Joan hasn't designed a label yet for the bottles, but whatever she designs is what it's going to be called.
Are you going to print the labels?
Oh yes.
You can do it all.
Do it all.
Two-man show. One man, one woman. It's been fabulous. And this is Fun with Grapes has made new strides today, coming out to the vineyard. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you very much.